Coming up on 5 Minute News. Executive order signed aimed at anti-competitive practices. Taking Trump's cue, Bolsonaro clouds vote with fraud claims. And Joe Biden tells Putin Russia must crack down on cybercriminals. It's Saturday, July 10. I'm Anthony Davis. President Joe Biden signed an executive order on Friday targeting what he labeled anti-competitive practices in tech, healthcare, and other parts of the economy, declaring it would fortify an American ideal that true capitalism depends on fair and open competition. The sweeping order includes 72 actions and recommendations that Biden said would lower prices for families, increase wages for workers, and promote innovation and faster economic growth. However, new regulations that agencies may write to translate his policy into rules could trigger major legal battles. The order includes calls for banning or limiting non-compete agreements to help boost wages, allowing rule changes that would pave the way for hearing aids to be sold over the counter at drugstores, and banning excessive early termination fees by internet companies. It also calls on the Transportation Department to consider issuing rules requiring airlines to refund fees when baggage is delayed or in-flight services are not provided as advertised. At a White House signing ceremony, Biden said of some in big business, rather than competing for consumers, they are consuming their competitors. Rather than competing for workers, they are finding ways to gain the upper hand on labor. Biden's order includes a flurry of consumer-pointed initiatives that could potentially lead to new federal regulations. But it also includes plenty of aspirational language that simply encourages agencies to take action meant to bolster worker and consumer protections. Brazil's presidential election is 15 months away, yet barely a day passes without President Jair Bolsonaro raising the spectre of fraud and warning that he will be entitled to reject the results unless Congress overhauls the voting system. He has mentioned potential vote fraud more than 20 times in the past 2 months and even floated the idea of cancelling the election altogether. I don't mind handing over the government next year to whomever it is, but with an honest vote, not with fraud, Bolsonaro told supporters on July 1st outside the presidential residence. The attacks on Brazil's electronic voting system has prompted an outcry and closed-door meetings between lawmakers and Supreme Court justices to defend the system. And the nation's electoral tribunal last month ordered the president to provide proof of the fraud that he has repeatedly claimed to possess, but so far hasn't presented. The assault also raises concern that Bolsonaro, who is far behind in early polls, is cribbing from former US President Donald Trump and laying the groundwork for his own version of the January 6 Capitol riot in Washington. At Bolsonaro's order, his administration has tasked the federal police with scouring Brazil's states for reports of fraud from the past 25 years in order to support his claims. US President Joe Biden told Russian President Vladimir Putin in a Friday phone call that he must take action against cybercriminals acting in his country and that the US reserves the right to defend its people and critical infrastructure from future attacks. The warning to Putin was largely a repetition of the tough rhetoric Biden had used during their meeting in Geneva last month, when he warned that there would be consequences for continuing cyber attacks emanating from Russia. Since then, a new ransomware attack linked to the Russia-based Revil hacking group has caused widespread disruption, placing Biden under growing pressure to this time marry the warning with actions, though none were immediately announced. The call with Putin underscored the extent to which the ransomware threat from criminal hacker gangs has mushroomed into an urgent national security challenge for the White House, and it suggested a possible concession by the administration that earlier warnings to the Russian leader had failed to curb a criminal activity that has taken aim at businesses across the globe. A White House statement announcing the hour-long call also highlighted a US-Russian agreement that will allow humanitarian aid to flow into Syria. The dual prongs of the agenda show how even as Biden pledges to get tough on Russia over hacking, there's an inherent desire to avoid aggravating tensions as the administration looks for Russia to cooperate, or at least not interfere, with US actions in other areas, including Syria, the Afghanistan withdrawal, and climate change. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen Podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.